So I guess moving on to our Microsoft attack, this is a pretty big one that's popped out this week, and it's already being exploited on top
Yeah.
of that. So it's such a
Hmm.
critical reason why you got to stay on top of it. I think, I posted a little video earlier this week, but one of the things that I kind of brought up is a lot of people don't realize that they still have an on-premise Exchange server, right? And so when they
Yeah.
switched to hybrid mode and they went to Office 365, that was something that they deployed, and then they kind of stick it off to the side and they forget about it. And it's something that they don't consider as critical, but would be in this case, for sure.
Yeah, they see it as like, it's like, oh, it's a server, but it's not really my email server, it's in the cloud. But to your point, it becomes a critical aspect of managing, your hybrid deployment if you go that route. So in this case, yeah, it was, potential for risk. So a lot of people, I mean, Microsoft is probably, the world's number one email provider behind the scenes, and I can't imagine how much email they really see, right? I mean, it's a lot. So it was a pretty big deal. I mean, for a lot of customers and people that we talked to, it was, hey, be mindful of this, be aware of it. Let's get things patched and, have something in place here. Because to your point, it was like, I think it was basically four vulnerabilities,
Yep.
all pretty critical. And I give Microsoft credit for really kind of doing what they did and very good detail around it, good indicators of compromise. The patching got out pretty quickly and timely. So it's just really, alerting people to say, hey, like go and do this. Like this is a pretty big deal because, email is super critical, right? If you can go through and pull data, create accounts, I think some of it was privilege escalation. So, creating new accounts, domain admin type stuff, that's always terrifying. So this is a pretty significant deal. And it's a pretty, big platform to kind of go after because it's so popular.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
know the same if you want to get into like how the web shell kind of works, and like, they could exfiltrate the entire mailbox if they wanted to.
Right. Yeah. So there are really four different components to it. So, and if you want to go read about the CVEs themselves, you certainly can. Microsoft has released a blog and on the topic, and they have these CVEs up there. But basically, you'd have kind of a chain of exploits that allowed you to authenticate to the server. Once you bypass authentication, you could potentially either write files to the system. You can actually, in one exploit, run arbitrary code on this as system on the server, so thereby turning it into a foothold into the network. And again, there was a lot of aspects to this that really I know that a lot of people want to stop at kind of the email aspect to it, but again, the system itself, if placed in a high criticality zone within your network, could really just be the initial foothold to a much larger attack, and that's something that I kind of want to emphasize here. And so once they've managed to gain that access, it's just a matter of staying evasive and pivoting to the network. One of the things I kind of found interesting, however, is the people that the group that they suspect behind the attack isn't a group that would typically is a group generally known for espionage and not really for this type of attack. So at least that to what Microsoft has published research about thus far. So it's curious to see the nature of the attack and why, and it makes you wonder as to why this kind of group, Hafnium, as I think they are dubbed, why they would be going after this kind of system as opposed to the things that they're usually focused on, which are like defense contractors, NGOs, policy think tanks, law firms. But again, and to that point, the impact of this is quite large. I know that at the city of Prague and Czech Republic, I think Labor Ministry, both reported that they potentially were breached by this. Nothing confirmed, but there's a high probability. FireEye had mentioned that at least one of their clients was affected. And then I know the U.S. defense contractors have also said they are impacted. So again, quite a large scale, quite a technical attack. I think it's peculiar seeing this kind of chain attack being leveraged so readily in the wild.